Welcome to your Daily 5 for Thursday, April 6th, 2023. I'm sure many of you have seen some of these stories in several different outlets about the fact that Tesla employees have admitted that they were sharing customer data, well, specifically videos that were captured on some of the cameras that are on Tesla vehicles. And a lot of these stories that I've seen are largely framing this as an anti-Tesla and therefore anti-Elon Musk story, which is not really surprising because Musk and Tesla have a history of deciding that none of the regulations and laws that apply to everybody else should apply to them, that there is a history of flouting the way everything is supposed to be done on the Elon Musk and Tesla front. So, but that's really separate. So you can go and research that yourself and you will find plenty to read about and likely be upset about. But I don't really look at this story as so much of an anti-Tesla story or even Musk. It's really just another example of a larger problem that many people have been talking about for any number of years, including myself and many other people far smarter and in more influential positions than me, which tells you the problem, which is that it hasn't gone anywhere. And that is that there really is no robust consumer protection legislation in the United States. Now, I don't know how it is everywhere else. The EU seems to be much more proactive about this stuff, but at least in the US, unless the data we're talking about is medical records, there really is very little that actually shields people from this type of or any other type of abuse of their data. I mean, that's, again, not anything new. But here again, you see this, and okay, these employees were breaking whatever the internal practices of the company were, and certainly that will probably, if they're still at the company and can be identified, they'll likely be fired or at least reprimanded. But outside of that, nothing really is going to happen. There is going to be no penalty, no legal proceeding, investigation, revocation of licenses or abilities to, have a business in a certain state. Nothing is going to happen. And ultimately, if nothing's going to happen to the company, then it really doesn't matter. It doesn't have any actual impact. Certainly to the employees who get fired or yelled at maybe for themselves personally, but it doesn't actually mean anything in the larger context of people and their data. There was still this violation of user privacy, and there will remain nothing to stop it in the future if there's no legislation or regulation in terms of what happens when something like this occurs. You can have all the internal HR practices and, we're going to discipline up to termination, blah, blah, blah. You can do all that stuff all day long. And honestly, it really doesn't have any impact outside of the employee themselves. Because if there is no threat to the company, there's almost no reason the company has to enforce it outside of the fact that they probably don't want bad PR. That's really what's going to drive this. Is this going to get us press that will negatively affect our stock price? Oh, it won't? Then we really don't care. Or at least we'll shovel the blame onto an employee, get rid of them, and then say problem solved. Whereas if the company was going to be held accountable for the actions of the employees and they had to pay some type of penalty that actually impacted them, then I think maybe you'd see a lot less of this stuff. It would be far rarer that employees would feel like they could do this because the company would be much more on top of making sure that they couldn't do it. There would be some kind of system that would watch where these videos were going, see if they were being accessed, make sure there was regular audits. I don't know. I'm not an HR person or whatever they call it now, people operations or whatever, chief people person I've seen around too. But there is no way that there can't be processes and procedures that cover this type of stuff because we already have it in the U.S. when it comes to medical records. So we already have a basic framework for how, and that's not to say that those things that there's never any leakage or violations of those practices. There certainly are. But there is a whole network of repercussions that can occur when something like that happens. Whereas in the consumer space outside of medical, there really doesn't appear, unless somebody can tell me and they're a lawyer, but there does not appear to be any major substantial penalties that kick in when things like this occur. Yes, of course, it's bad PR and these employees are going to be, again, reprimanded or fired. Of course, that's going to happen. If they were doing something that was malicious, then there may be some kind of criminal or civil proceeding that follows it. But the company itself can just hide behind, well, we told them they shouldn't do that, and there's no real penalty for it. At least not that I can find. There's nothing that really indicates there's any real weighty punishment for this type of thing. And as long as that is the case and stays the case, then ultimately these stories, while they may sound bad, people might go, no, this shouldn't happen. There really is no reason that they won't happen outside of a company not wanting bad PR. And honestly, I don't think that's enough. Later.